Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Blue Central Postgame on STL Sports Central and powered by DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours. Your St. Louis Blues fall to the Utah Mammoth tonight by final score of 4-2. In familiar fashion to what we've been watching and what we just saw against the Chicago Blackhawks, whether it's, struggles on the road, whether it's, whoever's in net is struggling, whether it's the second period, whether it's special teams, whether it's a combination of all those things. This St. Louis Blues team is just struggling right now to put together good performances. And it's tough when you're going up against a Central Division opponent with guys like Clayton, Keller, and Schmaltz that just have historically had your number and did so tonight. So St. Louis Blues end up on the wrong side of the result. And I think given the play and given, 0 for 4 on the power play once again, which I'm sure we'll have that conversation, even though on the last post game, if you guys didn't see that, it was awesome having Luke kind of boots on the ground in the United Center, actually talking to Jim Montgomery and talking to Robert Thomas and talking to Otto Stenberg, hearing their thoughts and them all agreeing that, the special teams was kind of the struggle of last game. To come out, we saw the lines. The philosophy there was, some consistency, even in a poor result, like maybe give these guys some time together to gel. And they come out and kind of gave us a similar performance that we saw against the Chicago Blackhawks, who lost tonight against the Capitals. Obviously, short rest there, but by the final score of 5-1. So we're continuing to see the divide between the St. Louis Blues and the rest of the NHL at this point. Thomas Welch here with Mike Meyer. Mike, I want to give you the floor to give us your knee-jerk reaction to your response to tonight's game as we're 10:54, withering our lives away, breaking down a team that continues to lose games, but we do it for the love of the puck, damn it.
That's the reason why we do it. That's the reason why we love it. That's the reason why we get so incredibly frustrated here with it. But I didn't overly mind tonight. You saw some good stuff here from both teams. You saw some really good, some plays, you saw a lot of slop here between both teams. But this is just what it seems like that both of these teams do here with one another, is that they bring out the best and the worst here of one another. I'm glad at least it seems like Robert Thomas is healthy. Something could have happened, and like we've seen it before where a guy will come back and then all of a sudden, they're out for the next 6 weeks. So praying that we see Robert Thomas here tomorrow night. But I do agree, everybody's starting to chime in here in the chat that, special teams definitely need some work. Whenever they had that last chance here in the second period, they said that they were 0 for 15 here on their last couple of attempts. And that's just not going to be able to fly. I want to still be able to see more effort here from our top six. And you saw a little bit of life. You saw some buzz here from them, but your top six needs to be able to just bury those chances. And when it seems like that Jimmy Snuggerud is the one who is leading by example here as a rookie, that's a bad sign. That's a bad sign. And so I don't know. I have a lot of mixed reactions. I love the reactions and the response, especially from this team, that they came out a little bit fiery. Toropchenko here right off the bat. Love that fight, even though it's not the result of the fight that we wanted. But this was definitely a mixed bag here for me.
It was nice to see Braden Schenn kind of sticking up for Jimmy Snuggerud too. I think, we always talk about the leadership of Braden Schenn and what he means to this team. And I think that's a perfect example right there of, standing up for a young rookie in the league when he gets plastered into the board. So that's nice. But like you alluded to, the Robert Thomas injury, I think, was a big scare for me because, guy feet gets taken out from under him, literally goes horizontal in midair, and the first thing to make contact with the ice is his head. So obviously, like you said, the guy coming back and, finishing out the game is a great sign. He's a hockey player. He's got the grit, the tenacity that we all love. But sometimes they put their bodies to the side and be like, I'm going to do it anyways. And they're like, yeah, actually, you've got a punctured lung or whatever it is, So hopefully he doesn't have a concussion. Hopefully we're not going to be missing him for an extended period of time. But my God, the biggest thing for me is just it's all the flaws that we've seen throughout the course of this season, like rearing its ugly head in the same game. It's like bad defense, right? But you're not winning the board battles. You're not controlling the net front presence. And you're not you're not controlling the game on special teams. And for me, it's like the special teams has gotten to the point, like, I feel like it's been in question throughout the course of this entire season, even going
Yeah.
back years past, the effectiveness of the power play. But like you said, Mike, when you're 0 for 15, like, and you just keep trotting out the same players and like, I don't want to get on him even more because he's already had a rough season. But what is it going to take for Buchnevich to get knocked off the first power play? Like, I don't know that I've seen a scenario where he's on even on power play too. So like,
Does he have dirt on Monty? Like,
I don't know. That's
just
what I'm asking. And it's like I also like as a person and from like a player's perspective, like seems like everyone in the room collectively loves Steve Ott and the job he does as an assistant coach. But like
Mhm.
if you're failing on the power play, like that's a massive toll to take on this team. God, that's literally
Mhm.
pucks in the back of the net, or like it's expected to be. Like that's the whole precipice of going up with a man advantage or 5-on-3 or whatever it is. And it's for whatever reason, dude. It seems like the Blues just continue to struggle, not just on the 5-on-4, but on the 5-on-3 and the 6-on-5 too, like both ends of the puck. So like try something different is like the resounding theme that it feels like is we've been dealing with throughout this whole season. And we haven't really seen like anything different besides like a Nikita Alexandrov trade and like Texier. And it's like, okay, is that really like trying something different? I think all Blues fans are collectively waiting for this nuclear bomb to go off where we're like, holy shit, like Doug finally did it. And I'm worried that we're just going to keep waiting until like the season's out of hand or the trade deadline or both of those happen. And then you're looking on the wrong side and you're like, well, it happened, but the season's over. So
Yeah.
what good does it really do?
And I don't think, and I don't want to get too terribly much here, onto the, what do we need to do here next to be able to right the ship or just be able to blow it up. But I think anything monumental that you're going to see is not going to happen until the offseason. I don't think that that's going to be necessarily the case. We've already seen the rumors flying around here that Robert Thomas is potentially here on the trade block. I had an article just posted out here yesterday, and it's he's number 11 here on the Athletics Chris Johnston's trade board here right now, ahead of Braden Schenn, and the only person who's ahead of him on the Blues team here is Justin Falk. So it's a little bit telling here for me that Robert Thomas is number 11 on that list. So
Yeah, I just think that those writers and stuff like love their lists. And I think it's based more off of the like the
the
popularity of the
clickbait.
player and like the scenario that the
Yeah,
the Blues are in more than like this is what I'm hearing. Like this is the guy that's most likely to move because I think in that scenario, like Braden Chen would be at the top of that, maybe even above Justin Falk at this point. But yeah, I think all of those are viable situations. And like Doug Armstrong said explicitly, like, unless your name is Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon and like Sidney Crosby, there's not a lot of guys that are untouchable in the NHL period.
right.
And he said the St. Louis Blues fall into that same category. So I
Yeah,
don't know if it's necessarily that the Blues are shopping Robert Thomas, but I think he's just saying to other GMs that, everybody's available because we're not getting the results that we need right now. And
exactly.
hopefully Doug Armstrong is thinking the same thing as us. Like if we continue to do the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same results. The problem is like, how long is it going to take for those moves or those perceived moves to happen? I guess it's kind of a wait and see scenario.
And for me, I don't think that you're going to see anything monumental. I mean, granted, we've seen several big trades here so far, in the last couple of seasons that have happened in season, but with several different breaks, you had the holiday break, you'll have the Olympic break here shortly, just coming up here in about a month here or so, and then you'll have the NHL trade deadline. But I think the biggest names that you're going to be able to see moved out here is going to be a Justin Falk, maybe an Oscar Sundquist, and maybe a Matthew Joseph. I don't see anything big. I don't see anything monumental happening. Again, like I could be totally surprised, but with the fact that these guys have full no trade clauses attached to their names, you not only have to be able to make sure that the player can get moved, but you have to make sure that the money and the term can get moved here as well. And yes, I know that the salary cap is going to be rising, and that's going to make players like Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou very, very attractive. But again, you have to be able to accept $8 million, and especially a team that either Buchnevich, Kyrou, Thomas, that they want to go to. So, we've been having some fun here over on Twitter. And if you guys want to, feel free to join us here over on Twitter to discuss, any of these potential trades, any of the likelihood of this happening here and whatnot. But I think we'd be remiss. Let's keep it here tonight's game, and we'll talk any future trades and stuff here, like as it potentially come around. But I think before we get into it here, I want to be able to make sure, that we are talking here about our sponsors, especially our guys over here at Home Bank. Home Bank, again, guys, here, STL Blues Post Central game here. Post game is brought to you by our business banking partners at Home Bank. From business lending to everyday banking, Home Bank has been with us here since day one as a trusted partner. Business isn't just about numbers, guys. It's about relationships. And with Home Bank, those relationships make all the difference. Home Bank is the team behind our team over here at STL Sports Central. Visit myhomebank.bank or call 855-577-2001. Home Bank, member FDIC, more than a bank. They're your business partner.
All right, Mike. So I do want to clarify that I think my big monumental trade would be Braden Schenn, just because he has the captain status. And I think even going back to last season at the trade deadline, it seemed like there was a move to be made there, and he kind of axed it. But he has the modified no trade clause, so it's down from being able to axe it on any team to only a set number of teams. So I think that's why. And obviously, there's a market for him for teams that are going into the playoffs. And I think that's something in this scenario with the St. Louis Blues. Last year, he was like, I still believe in this team. I don't know if he's going to give them the same grace this season. So I'm going to hang my hat on that. It seems like chat kind of is too. But going back
15 teams here, by the way.
Going back to tonight's game, let's break down. I want to, this was the biggest discourse for me that I saw on Twitter tonight. How did you feel about Joel Hofer's game tonight? 23 shots on goal, and letting in 4 goals. I think, there's this scenario here where it feels like if Jordan Binnington is in net, a lot of people are raising the pitchforks and torches and yelling at him to get out of town, but it's Joel Hofer, and we have a different opinion of him because he's had a better season so far statistically than Jordan Binnington has. So Aaron D in the chat says all soft goals, and it feels like we're flip-flopping every night depending on the result. And I think the common denominator for me is the team that's playing in front of both of them.
Yeah, I mean, the Blues played a completely different level, a completely different style here of a game last time, versus tonight. I think that they're a little bit more defensively sound tonight than what they were, especially against Chicago. That's not really saying much because they didn't look great here in their own end here either. Hofer did let in some soft goals, but a couple of them were just weird bounces. They were weird, so I'm not going to completely put all the blame here on him, but there was definitely some saves I think that he should have made. I don't know. It's again, I think everything here about this game, whether you talk about the fight, you talk about the goals, you talk about the goal scored, it just seemed like it was like, yeah, okay, but, and that was just the definition of tonight's game. They made some good chances. It was a decent fight. He stood up for this person, but then they let in this goal. They did this, but then this, and it just seemed like it was a crazy game of whack-a-mole where we figured out this one thing. They make this good save. They make this good shot, but then there's this other thing that comes up and that bites them in the butt. So I don't know. I didn't think it was great, but I don't think that, and this certainly wasn't the Joel Hofer that we're used to seeing, but I also didn't really think that, he was the player who was going to be standing on the top of his head and bringing this team here to the promised land.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the biggest thing for me from a positive perspective, which we're going to talk about on this post-game show, it's hard when you're consistently stringing together losses like this in disappointing fashion to find the positives. But, it's all about finding the answers within the process and like creating a process that leads to wins. So I think in a scenario tonight where it felt like the Blues were attempting to climb back into this game, you go down 2-0 and then you make it 2-1. They make it 3-1, obviously, but the Blues scored again to make it 3-2. And then, things happen in the third period and kind of put it out fortitude. But even when they were pushing there at the end, it's like, and then Robert Thomas comes back. You're like, oh, like I've seen this story before. I'm not going to get my hopes up, but also like there is that glimmer of hope that like, hey, maybe they can pull it off this time, you know? So, and in the Chicago game that we just saw, it felt like, you know, as soon as we went down like by 3 goals, it was just curtains on the whole thing. So, I think that was one positive I would take away is their fight and continuing to try to claw their way back into the game, but it's heavily outweighed by the negatives and
Yeah.
especially in a scenario to where like it was cool to see like a little bit there. Like Robert Thomas obviously leaves the ice, and immediately Dalibor Dvorsky is thrown in these like pressure situations where he needs to win face-offs, and I think that's a lot to put on a guy that young. But it's also, you know, he's a high draft pick, one of the highest that the Blues have had in recent memory. So that pressure is always going to follow him, even if he's not in those high pressure situations. So I wouldn't say he did a phenomenal job at winning those face-offs, but
No.
to kind of dip his toes in the water in those scenarios, I think in the long term, as we're talking, you know, as we'll continue to talk about rebuilds and retools, and I'm sure chat will talk about tanks too, even though Doug Armstrong has said he has, you know, no intentions of ever doing that. Sometimes you do it on accident, Doug, and it seems like you're kind of doing that right now. But yeah, I think that's something that we'll take into consideration and when we're laying out the positives, right? It's not always like, oh, like if this team is going to just miss the playoffs, the positives won't look like, hey, we won or we almost won. The positives will look like, what does the development of Dalibor Dvorsky look like? How is Otto Stenberg, like, who's now getting time on the penalty kill in very short amount of time in the NHL? Like, what does that look like? What does the future of this team look like in the next 5 years? More so than what will this team look like at the trade deadline? So it'll be interesting to see how those conversations shift. And if any nuclear bombs go off, like we've been talking about, that force them into shifting.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely liked some of the positives that we're seeing here from some of these young guys. I just don't think that obviously that we need to be able to put all this pressure on them. You know, guys are expecting just because they have a first round draft pick associated with them that all of a sudden that they need to be this Connor McDavid, they need to be a Nathan McKinnon, that they need to be, you know, whatever, because of, you know, you occasionally get your Nail Yakupovs thrown in there. You occasionally get your you know, Ryan Nugent Hopkins, who is a really good player, but he's just not like this world beater of a player.
Klim Kostin, kind of a good example. I mean, he was 31st pick, but like
still,
he's not,
yeah,
he's nowhere close to your team right now. So
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So, and I agree. Like, if they tank one guy, it's not going to fix this entire team. No, absolutely not. And as a guy who is, and I like to be able to think that I'm up on the prospects here quite a bit, there's a lot of really good players who are in this pipeline, but there's not great players. And yes, I'm going to throw Justin Carbonneau in there. I'm going to throw Adam Juracek in there. Like, these guys all have potential, but there's still a lot of work that these guys have to end up doing before they can be monumental impact players who are going to be leading this team. You know, these guys need work here. Same thing here as Dalibor Dvorsky. They need to be able to work here on their defensive game. They need to be able to work here on their full 200-foot game. They need to be able to work here on their offense. Like, it's going to take time for them to be able to get acclimated on up. So here in the meantime, take a look here around the rest of the NHL. Take a look here, not just at the NHL, but take a look here at the NFL. There's plenty of different games. It's wild card time frame, college football. Be sure to look here at our guys over at DraftKings Sportsbook. Again, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but it is up and live here now. And be sure to use our code STL Sports. Grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet. Again, we've been live here for just quite a while. So that's code STL Sports in partnership here with DraftKings Sportsbook.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or call ccbg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, call dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Tommy, what else are you thinking here about this game? Any last little bit of thoughts and nuggets we can obviously preview? Because we're going to be back here again tomorrow night. It's going to be an even later night here for us. I've already had plenty of coffee. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to get more coffee here again tomorrow. Make sure we got enough. If I need to, I'm going to be able to break out the drink thunder here as well.
There we go.
I
I think I'm going to need a little bit of that.
I don't know if you guys have had the chance to be able to get some. It's some good stuff.
Oddly enough, the last time we played Vegas, it was a win. So like in theory, right? Like, don't shoot the messenger, but in theory, like, you should know the process to come away with a victory against the Vegas Golden Knights because you just did it recently. In theory, that doesn't always come to fruition here for the St. Louis Blues throughout the course of the season, but something to keep in mind as you're laying your bets on DraftKings, as you're watching these games, or whatever you want to do. But I did want to bring up, I'm looking at the time on ice for the St. Louis Blues defenseman. That's kind of been a topic of conversation that we talked about throughout the course of this season. 13 minutes for Tyler Tucker and 12 minutes for Logan Mailloux. So it feels like as they're getting deeper into this season, they're starting to balance it out a little bit more, like we were talking about, which I think is a good sign because, Philip Broberg's not going to be able to play 30 minutes of time on ice every single night. And I don't think we want him to, even though, I think he's a bona fide stud and he's going to end up being, kind of the heir to the throne when this team doesn't have like Colton Parayko anymore. So I think in that scenario, like obviously you want him on the ice as much as possible, but you're trying to balance out the ice time so that everybody's legs are fresh, like you're reducing injuries, all that stuff. So I think from a defensive standpoint, just in terms of how the time on ice is acclimated, I think that's a step in the right direction. But Chat was talking about it too. Like I think the guys, and we've always talked about it throughout the course of this season, but the guys that are making the most money have got to drive the bus. And I think they struggled to do that tonight too. It's like, the compete factor, the effort levels, like even like before Robert Thomas got hurt, I think we were on the power play. He turned it over back towards the blue line as a chance for the Mammoth going the other way. And who is it? Was it Broberg that had to take a holding penalty just to get him out? Like,
it was Broberg
and he
behind
goes
the
to the
net,
box, and there goes your power play opportunity. It's like, dude, that and that's Robert Thomas.
It was a bit of a weak call,
though. Player
though.
on your team, so it's like I don't want to pick him apart. I'm not going to say he's like a terrible player, right? But like the guys that are making the most money on your team have to be the closest, and not everybody's going to have a perfect game every single game, but those guys have to be the ones that are like the closest and the best at like minimizing their mistakes and maximizing their opportunities. And it feels like for the St. Louis Blues, not just Robert Thomas, but all of those guys that are making the most money right now are failing to do so. And I think that's where this team is struggling mightily.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I think you said it here earlier, is that, we continue to throw out the same lines. We continue to throw out the same combinations. And eventually, like, you need some changes. I'm so much of the notion here right now that you need to be able to put Logan Mailloux back here, at least be able to get a little of a sniff here on the power play. Why not? You're over 15. You're over 15. Like, why not?
I'm open to any ideas that are different than the ones that we're doing right now. So I'm 100% with you. Like, just switch it up and see what happens.
Yeah, I would not mind seeing Logan Mailloux be able to get some power play time. I mean, shoot, Jordan Kyrou here, he got 3 minutes and 43 seconds here on the power play. Otto Stenberg, not really, like it was 19 seconds. You'd had Jonathan Berggren, he got 2 minutes, minute 58 here. But and then of course here in the third period, you had Dalibor Dvorsky pick up some additional time here with Thomas here being out. He had 2.5 minutes. Just why not? Why not? Like, what do you have to lose here at this point in time? Give me Colton Parayko out there. I mean, I guess, his time here out in front of the net didn't last very long. But just give me something. Give me a better look. Give me something different. It's not working. And clearly something's broken. Clearly something, like, whatever that it is, like, you just need a different look. I don't care if it's the same scheme. Just give me some different guys. Give me a different lineup and combination, because the top end guys that you got here are clearly all snake bitten, or they're something, and it stinks all the way back here to St. Louis, and I'm tired of the stench.
Speaking of give me something different, I want to get your take or your philosophy, because this has been something that's been blowing my mind for the St. Louis Blues for a couple of years now. And it feels like it reared its ugly head again tonight. But 3 points on the night for Clayton Keller, certified Blues killer. 3 points on the night for Nick Schmaltz, certified Blues killer. It feels like Connor Garland's in that conversation, and Nathan McKinnon, obviously. But like all of these guys who, like, from a betting perspective, it's great because it's like, oh, just hammer anytime goal scorer, anytime we play against them, and you're looking pretty good. But from like a compete standpoint, from a how do we get this Blues team to win standpoint, first of all, I mean, not why is it difficult to shut them down, because they're great hockey players. I mean, Clayton Keller is a prospect of St. Louis. We expect nothing less from one of our own, right? But my God, going into the game plan and morning skate and like before the first period starts, you would think Jim Montgomery grabs the whiteboard, turns it around, and just says, stop Keller and Schmaltz. Like, and maybe that leads to, I don't know, you getting a winning result. But like when both of them end up with 3 points on the night, it's like, dude, I saw this coming from a mile away. I woke up this morning, I was like, oh God, it's the Keller and Schmaltz game. Like, should I bet on it? No, I don't want to bet against the Blues. Like, it sucks when I do that. But it's like,
terrible mentality.
You see it coming from a mile away as a fan. So as a coach and as a player, you got to be thinking to yourself, like, I got to do everything in my power to make sure that these two players don't beat us. And then they do. So like, where's the disconnect there? Or like, how do you fix that? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's like, if I can see it sitting in my chair, eating potato chips out of my belly button, like the guys that are putting in the work every night, like have to see it. Right.
I want to know why you're eating potato chips out of your belly button. But clearly, like we need to be able to find, I forget the actor's name who played Coach O'Reilly from the Mighty Ducks, and say, we need you to run our penalty kill. We need to be able to run our defensive scheme, because he made one of the best quotes, and it's, I want you to quit this guy like a bad habit. I want him out of the game.
Yeah. And
clearly that needs to happen here right now. Like, we need to be able to find somebody, Schenn, Joseph, May, like whoever that it is. I want you to be the scapegoat, and I want you to be able to take these guys here out of the game. Preferably it'd be Schmaltz over Keller, because I just don't want to be able to see Keller just go down here with an injury. And just knock him out of the game. Knock him out. Like, I don't care. I'm so sick and tired of hearing Clayton Keller goal here on Jordan Bennington or Joel Hofer. Schmaltz goal here on us. Like, I'm so sick and tired of hearing it. You know, I was looking down, just kind of getting some notes here together during the game. And then you hear goal, you know, and you see Nick Schmaltz, and you're like, yep. And I look right back down. Like, sure, why not? So,
but like, that's it. Like, we know from like a internal perspective, right? Like, holding out hope. I think Jordan Kyrie's a stud. He's got the speed, the hands, the finishing capability, all that stuff. But we see firsthand sometimes that, like, when he gets buried into the boards, right? Like, his game kind of steps back a little bit, plays a little more wary, plays a little more safer, which is like, I don't blame him, dude. So like, Logan Stanley's a big dude. And if he buried me, I'm sitting out for like probably half the season. So like, I'm not holding anything against him, but I'm just saying and then like Robert Thomas is getting flipped over, lands on his head, all these, like, obviously that's an accident, but I think every player in the NHL, even a guy like Connor McDavid, like, I don't know if the Blues have that kryptonite, but like, people are constantly figuring out ways to shut these players down. I mean, there was that game that the Blues held Draisaitl and McDavid without a point, like, just out of nowhere. So like, it in every single game in the NHL, it's a game of chess to figure out how to shut down the other team's best player. And I think for the Blues, it's far too often that they don't have the answers to that. They go out and play, and then it's like, oh yeah, these players are really good. They ended up with a hat trick. Or like, hey, these players are really good. Steven Stamkos scored 4 goals against you. It's like, dude, what was the game plan? Like, we knew he was good. Shut him down. Like, figure it out. But figuring out that kryptonite, I think, is crucial. And like, I like maybe Clayton Keller doesn't like getting buried into the boards and wouldn't have 3 points on in the night if Braden Schenn just followed him around and made him eat one after every pass. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, I didn't see a lot of that tonight, and I think that's why they kind of had their way with the St. Louis Blues.
And very well could have. Very well could have. All I know is I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of listening to it, and I'm tired of being the one here on the other end who's talking about it over and over here again. So
Heard that.
So, all right. Tommy, any final thoughts here just regarding the game? Any thoughts here about the upcoming Vegas game? I know we're running a little bit long here tonight.
Goal? That's the biggest question, right?
Oh, it's got to be Benner. It's got to be Benner.
So?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
they're not going to go Hofer after just letting up, 4 goals here on a back-to-back. I can't see them doing that.
Yeah.
I doubt that there's very many changes here to the lineup. I mean, you may see Logan Mailloux come out in favor here of Kessel. Those small little changes. I wouldn't mind seeing Pavel Buchnevich get moved down the lineup. I wouldn't mind seeing some small little tinkers here in the lineup itself, but largely in part, I think you're going to pretty much see the same lineup.
I think he's going to blend them. Just because he's been blending them, and then he's like, we'll keep them the same. And then they had the same flaws, so he's going to be like, screw it, we're just going to flip it all over again.
Could.
But
very well could.
I don't know. We'll see.
You'll see Robert Thomas in the fourth line.
My biggest thing is just if you follow the same plan that you had the last time you played Vegas, like in theory you should win. So I'm hoping that we see the same team that came out against the Vegas Golden Knights, but it's a coin flip with this team this year, so we'll see what happens. D. Brown says Fabry will draw back in. I wouldn't mind that. Fresh legs, right? On a back-to-back. A lot of these guys are probably gassed too. So
yep, I wouldn't be surprised. Stenberg looked fine here tonight, but I also wouldn't be surprised to see him get taken out of the lineup just here again, like just on a back-to-back. He played 13 minutes here tonight. Again, just simply here on the back-to-back, but it also could be Berggren. But you need a little bit of that offensive upside. So who knows? I really wouldn't be surprised at any single point in time to when Oscar Sundqvist gets nearly 16 minutes of ice time.
Yeah.
That's about it. That's
about it.
Tommy, that's all I got. That's all I got
too. Thank you guys. Thank you, chat, for tuning in. Appreciate you guys throughout the course of this entire season. Obviously, the results have not been what anybody's expected or wanted. And that includes us because we're fans at the end of the day too. But we're going to keep coming back because we love the torture, but we also love the glory when we win, and just chatting it up with you guys. And we love the conversation, and hearing other people's opinions that are different from ours are great too. So appreciate you guys always for keeping the conversation going. Thank you, Mike, for being here, obviously, because talking by myself would be a disaster, and hopefully you feel the same way, vice versa. But I think that's the perfect time to wrap it up from us. We will be back, like we said, tomorrow night, a little bit later against the Vegas Golden Knights, hopefully with a different result. But this has been the Blue Central Post Game on STL Sports Central. I'm Thomas Welch, here with Mike Meyer, and we will see you guys tomorrow night. Peace.